Hello viewers, I am Emphasis. Have you ever wanted to be a Roman legionary? Have you ever wanted to bear the flags of your forefathers upon your shoulders and mercilessly charge down the enemies of the greatest Mediterranean powerhouse in history? Have you ever wanted to be part of the shield wall? Or maybe climb up ladders to scale enemy cities? Have you wanted to become the downfall of Hannibal, one of the most revered generals alive? Or maybe, just maybe, you wanted to be a simple soldier and lead a simple soldierly life? Well, now you can, with a legionary's life. This text-based story game will be the vehicle that will allow us to lead our own legionary down the path to glory. Since we're just aiming to go as far as we can without any real gimmicks, we'll just choose the basic setup for the character. No real strengths, but no real weaknesses either. Honestly, I'm just not much of a min-maxer. I love games like this for the story, so I don't want to rely too much on stat-based strategies. I'm going to be as well-rounded as possible for this playthrough. Maybe in the future, if this turns out to be a terrible idea, I'll adjust accordingly. Now, a glorious name to go with our soon-to-be famous Plebian. Luckily, I had a previous playthrough, so I could see what the game played like on my computer. I came up with the name Lucien Amicius. No real meaning whatsoever, but it sounded Roman and cool, which is good enough for me. Then we come to the character enhancement screen, which doesn't apply much, to us right now. If you have leftover points from a previous playthrough, you can use this to improve your character from the get-go, which can make your game easier, or just help those who want to roleplay a specific kind of character. As you can see, you can add stuff to your attribute points depending on the points you have. And if you go up to the top left corner, you can even look at different weapons and armor that you want your character to start with. But we're not doing any of that, so let's just move on. The First War lasted for over 20 years. Conflict had been only a matter of time. Once the relentless expansion of Rome came close to the huge Carthaginian sphere of influence. A young power propelled by a staggering self-confidence, Rome had most of the Italic Peninsula under its control at the time. On the other side was the Punic city of Carthage, a centuries-old naval colossus dominating the western Great Sea. An insurmountable gap in power and prestige seemed to divide the two cities. Unexpectedly, the Roman Republic emerged victorious, incomplete as the victory was. Building upon its success, the city's maritime territory grew larger and more secure, while humiliating conditions well beyond the actual extent of the defeat were imposed upon Carthage. Nevertheless, the price was tremendous for both parties. Some say that not even Alexander's conquest devoured so many lives. It all paled compared to what was to come. The truce that followed lasted for a generation. You were a child when the situation hovered on the brink of war once again. You still remember the talk in Rome back then, when everybody expected the looming conflict to take place in the distant colonies of Hispania to the west, now that an attack by sea was nigh impossible. The astonishment when the news reached the city is still fresh in your memory. A bold, not yet 30 Carthaginian general named Hannibal Barca had led an army through the lands of the fierce Gauls and across the mountains to the north. The war was here, in Italia, a few hundred miles from Rome itself. The following years were marked by growing panic as the reports of whole armies annihilated by Hannibal kept coming. The Punic general was stronger, smarter than anything Rome had ever faced before. Damn, don't you like this music? Yet, his attempt to turn the Italic allies on the Republic was unsuccessful. Defeating him in a pitched battle was beyond the realms of possibility. That much was clear to the Romans. At the same time, he could not lay siege to the capital. The conflict turned into an endless war of attrition. Meanwhile, another war was being fought in faraway Hispania, crucial to prevent reinforcements from joining Hannibal. About a year ago, the Roman legions were soundly defeated, and their commanders, proconsul Publius Cornelius Scipio and his brother Gnaeus, were killed. What little remained of the army was now controlling a small patch of land. Even after reinforcements joined the survivors, the situation looked more desperate than ever. I'm already really enjoying the history behind this. When the Centuriate Assembly had to appoint a new proconsul, only Scipio's son, a young man still in his 20s, stepped forward. No one else wished to take on such a hopeless assignment. You, on the other hand, had no choice at all. Right after you had come of age, you were enrolled in a freshly raised legion, part of a second, 11,000-strong reinforcement bound to accompany the new proconsul. After a brief training period, you embarked on the long journey to Hispania. Now you've reached your destination and joined what is left of the previous army. Apparently, with the Romans out of the picture, the Carthaginians have divided into 3 large hosts, each of them at least as big as your current force. They are a long way from your headquarters, committed to securing the whole region. So far away from your home that you can hardly comprehend the distance, with little to no chance of ever seeing your family again, deprived of most of your rights you held as a civilian, you feel strangely calm as you prepare to face the hardships to come. This is the army screen, where you pass the time in between battles through different actions. One of the largest parts of being in the military is, quite simply, passing the time. Though battles are chaotic, and honestly, the most interesting parts of warfare, these are the moments that truly decide the outcome. Troops that are able to stay well trained perform better in battle, and armies that are able to sustain their morale suffer less from attrition by desertion. It's much more complex than what I'm describing it here as, but these reasons are why I think these moments before and between battles are the most important part of the game. These moments may not kill you outright, but they do decide whether you live or die, and each camp event passes the time to the next battle. Time is limited, so use it wisely. These time-passing events can become a little mundane after a while. I'll show you the first time I do every KEP event. Afterwards, I'll just give you a summary of what I trained to help move on to more interesting story events. The first item we're going to look at is our character screen. As we looked at before, our character is extremely average. So average, in fact, that he would make a great anime harem character. But that's not achievable in this game. Be sure to pay attention to this menu. All these attributes, skills, and even your rank will affect how battles turn out. Keeping abreast of where you are skill-wise will help you achieve victory in the long term. An interesting thing I want to point out is if you take a look at the wages in the bottom right corner, you'll notice something interesting. You have a fixed costs amount subtracted from your wages. Roman armies expected their citizens conscripted into the military to pay for their upkeep on their armor and weapons. This is an interesting military fact, considering that conscription drew these citizens away from their farms and land, cutting down their abilities to maintain property. I wonder how much it damaged the willingness of the citizens to serve in the military, knowing that doing so could financially devastate them. It would be even worse in the early days of the Republic, where soldiers were not even paid regularly at all, only after battles or sieges, in which, technically, I would argue they're not even really paid, they're just given a portion of the loot, and that was during a time when the war would have to pay for itself. Now, we'll be going over each section in time, so the first action I'm going to take care of is to train myself. As you can see, we have javelin and solo training available to us, as well as sparring with others, but that's dependent on how involved you are with your men. If your morale for the men score or your relationship with the men score is super low, you're not going to get good training partners. So I'm going to start with a bit of solo practice. Practicing with a wooden stake is pretty pitiful, but at least I improved a little bit by doing it. And then I'm going to train in using the javelin as well, and get some small improvement. Oh, I got a random event. You're stuck with an especially aggressive sparring partner this morning. Decius has been here in Hispania since long before your arrival. He is one of the survivors of last year's debacle. His blade has come dangerously close to your throat twice already. Even a wooden practice sword can be lethal when it's used like that. So, am I going to complain, keep going, or attempt a spectacular counterstrike. And I already know 3 isn't going to happen with my skills, so I'm going to have to choose between complain or keep going. Lucien is going to be the kind of character that's just known for being an all-around decent person, so he's not going to be the type to complain. So we're just going to go ahead and choose with keep going. You try to stand your ground as best you can, but he's too skilled for you. And we failed our defense roll, it looks like. A quick slash on your sword arm and a thrust to your ribs leave you panting and gasping. Your health is decreased by 4. Trying hard to shrug off the pain, you keep going till the end of the practice session. With losing a little bit of health, let's not keep focusing on training. Instead, I'm going to take part in some leisure. We can hang around with the troops in our unit and improve our morale a little bit. We can play some dice, bet a little money, and maybe win some. We can play a board game which is dependent on intellect instead of charisma, or we can just generally have fun, but it costs money. We're going to stick around and hang around with our unit and improve our relationship with the men a little. Afterwards, I want to do some standard workouts. I'm just going to start with a general run. And we increased our quickness, which I believe helps us in our turn-based battles later. Then I'm going to swim, which, hey, gives me a boost in both coordination and endurance. And now that we've got some workouts out of the way, let's look at our inventory. As you can see, we have very basic items. No real bonuses from any of these. So, why don't we change that? We can go to the buy-sell section and look for some new items. And as you can see, intelligence determines the items we can buy. We're not technically buying anything from a store, but from army blacksmiths, or some extras from the men around us. A lot of this is going to be outside of our price range as a basic conscript, so we'll just stick with getting a new short sword. It has better scores all around, so why don't we just take it? And then what we'll do is we'll go back and sell our original short sword for a little extra coin. As we talked about, we're not technically buying from a store. So when you leave the screen, you'll actually lose the chance to buy some of the items that came up during the search. Now we come down to the miscellaneous screen, or as I like to call it, the real military life screen. Here you can take an extra patrol to improve your relationship with your centurion and troops, extra guard duty for more improvements, or some extra coaching, but coaching requires you to be a higher rank than you currently are, so we can't choose it. And finally, you can offer a sacrifice to the gods. As you see, if your intellect is really low, you get a greater chance of a large morale boost. So Lucien will just take an extra patrol, and will receive a small boost to troop opinion. And now that we've got over most of the events, I'm going to start editing more of what I do. I'll give a short summary at the end, before the battle, but I'll be sure to stop at any events along the way. Oh, we already have an event. Scaling walls is part of today's drill. In front of your line, a ladder is propped up against the camp walls. One by one, the men ahead of you sprint towards it and start climbing. Very soon, it's your turn. How do you approach this? Well, we're an earnest person, so damn it, we're gonna go nonchalant and confident. Hey, we got the roll. Confident in your abilities, you steadily move towards the top. A few more steps and you are over the wall, unharmed. So just a quick overview. We threw some javelins, we sparred a bit, got some shield practice, and we got paid, but not enough to make it worthwhile. So now we're finally here at the battle. We shouldn't stick around too long. Let's just go. The camp bursts into activity as the whole army prepares to leave. You march to the south. It doesn't take long for your destination to become apparent. You are bound for New Carthage, the capital of the Carthaginian colonies here in Hispania. It's a daring move, and very risky. Several days later, you reach your destination and set up camp not far from the city. According to Camp Talk, the closest enemy army is about 10 days' march from here. A long siege is out of the question. You'll have to take New Carthage by storm. You cast a glance at the city walls, strong stone walls. The thought of fighting your way up there makes your stomach churn. It's hard not to think that you may be looking at the place where your days will end. And that's where we'll end the episode for today, with the battle being the next episode. I am Emphasis. Thank you so much for watching, If you really enjoyed this video, please sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.